Hello and welcome to another series of Workspace Meets. Today I'm joined by Diane Thorsen, Design Director at Gensler. Hi Diane, it's lovely to have you.
Hi, wonderful to be with you and great conversations. I look forward to this.
Yeah, so do we. So let's get to know a little bit more about you. Diane, tell us, how did you choose your career?
Well, I think design is actually something that chooses you. But it's one of those situations where, if you have a passion for design and for creativity and really just a desire to create experiences, then design finds you. I remember as a child actually having this dream of creating new cities and, what if we had a blank canvas? What would we do to create something extraordinary? And I think actually, looking at where we are now, COVID has actually allowed us to step back a little bit and review what we are doing and how we are designing. And I always had this desire to actually create extraordinary experiences for people. And that's exactly what it is. Design is very emotive and, we feel spaces more than we see them.
Mm-hmm.
So it was one of those situations of me actually just going into this career because of a love for design and a passion. And so that's it, started in architecture and eventually it evolved into design and all kinds of design of spaces that we occupy, because I think that's where design has the greatest impact. And it's an absolute love.
Oh, that's such a nice story. And I think as well with design, you have to have an eye for it. So you certainly must have an eye for design.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of those things where you develop a sense of looking at things. And, that's really what design is about. You actually start to see things differently and how they can be better. And you live that. You're constantly going into spaces, redesigning things, understanding finishes, changing things, figuring out how things could be better. And I think that's a wonderful, it's what we love about what we do.
Yeah, and not everybody has that. So I would consider that definitely a talent.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. I think it's something that you develop as well, so I would say to anybody who's interested in going into design and they often say, clients will say as well, I'm not a designer, but we are all designers. We all create spaces, we create our homes, we create our environments. It's just really a question of when you study the psychology of what a space or what an office can actually do, and the power that it has, which is one of the things that Gensler speaks about, the power of design, which is really extraordinary. And you really get to see firsthand what the power of design can do and how it can influence and shape people.
Yeah, definitely. I really agree with you. Yeah, it's so cool. What's been your most challenging commercial project?
Well, I actually think every project has its unique challenges. So I honestly couldn't single out any one project and say, that has been the most challenging, because every project starts its own new life and its own way of working. And you have a brief and you have a certain set of challenges. So, every project has its life. And you start with the process of first understanding what the problem is. And I think when you actually approach something around this isn't a challenge, it's finding some kind of solution, then that word challenge actually disappears, and you actually really start to enjoy the process of actually just finding solution finding, rather than thinking that things are a challenge. So I think, every project, I would say, has challenges around time, for example, in this part of the world. And there's challenges around, understanding a brief and expectations.
Yeah.
So I would say, those are the kinds of challenges that we probably experience the most difficulty around. But once you work through those, then you just focus on solution finding, really.
Okay, that's interesting. I like the way you've explained that. And I can see that you're working from home. Which do you prefer, home or the office?
Well, you know, we were speaking a little bit earlier when you and I were just having a conversation, and I think we've all had to just embrace this challenge as our own experiments. And there's pros and cons to both, obviously. I think, you know, the work-life balance, interesting working from home, being able to actually just start, be focused when you choose to be focused, exercise when you need to exercise, move when you need to move, eat the kinds of foods that you need to eat, and actually balance your life in the way that you choose, so to have control in a way. But I think the thing that I've really missed so much, and you know, that's come through in all of the research papers that Gensler has done, in our own work from home scenarios, people have really missed people. And you know, that's really driven home so much to us about how we are as a group. We're very social, and we require that interaction, especially as creatives. So that's the thing that we've really missed the most, you know, just the connection and the collaboration aspect.
Yeah, the human
so we're
interaction.
looking forward to being back. Absolutely.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's nice to be working from home, but I think the office is where you should really be.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think when we all get back to the office, we'll have a completely different way of looking at our teams. And I think, to be honest, I think, you know, there will be a balance of and a hybrid mix of how we work going forward, because we found that there's actually so much that you can actually do working from home. You can be very much more productive. When you need to do focus tasks, it really does work. It saves the commuting. You know, there's a lot of benefits actually to a lot of different people, but the collaboration parts and just being able to communicate face to face, you know, the interaction of individuals, being able to read body language, you know, those are the kinds of things, those little nuances that you realize even when doing things like this. You know, if we were face to face with one another, it would have just a different energy and a different character. Not that one's good and one's bad. It's just, you know, that's the thing that we've really missed the most, is collaboration.
Yeah, human interaction. I agree with you, and I'm sure in your industry as well, it's must be really important for you guys to be around a table and constantly brainstorming and putting all your ideas together. I'm sure it's not so easy over Zoom.
Yeah, the technology has made it really interesting, and I must say, you know, Gensler has amazing tools at its fingertips to be able to do workshops and to be able to, you know, integrate and show clients on screen live different changes, and you know, being able to guide clients through processes and things like that. So thank goodness for technology. It's been absolutely amazing. But nothing beats being able to actually be together to do a workshop, especially when you're working with finishers, you know, to be able to actually touch and feel certain things, and to be able to actually show materials, and to just read a room as well. You know, it's that much more difficult. So we've had to hone our skills a lot in reading body language virtually and improvise things. It's been good, and it's been a really interesting it's been a very interesting time, super challenging, and one that I don't think, you know, we would love to repeat in a hurry, because so many people have been so negatively affected, and you know, people have struggled with, you know, health and just the psychology of the fear factor, and you know, being concerned about families and families being separated, and you know, all of those kinds of things. But that aside, I mean, we've survived it, which is great.
And back to the office soon, I suppose.
Absolutely, back to the office. I think everyone can't wait for that day.
Oh, that's nice. If you could share a success story about an office interior project, what was it, and how did it become a success?
Well, I'd prefer not to name any clients, but because I think, again, every project is really unique and super enjoyable. But the one thing that I think is so wonderful about what we do is that it really, interior spaces actually really reflect the brand and the vision of a company. And I think that's why the office will always survive. There's been so much speak about, will the office of the future be a virtual office? And I always say no, because actually we've really recognized now that it's a reflection of our brand. It's a group of individuals who connect with one another. And I think the stories about our successes always reflect that. And through the planning and the creation of these spaces, we actually see the change and the influence that this design actually creates. There's so many examples of how we actually see how a design shapes the business and influences how people behave, and it actually almost in a way creates the business. And I think that's actually part of the success stories that we love to hear back from clients afterwards, where they say, we behaved in a certain way, and actually changing the environment actually brought about change in the way people dressed, the way people behaved, the interactions, the way that the collaboration just happened so much more fluidly. And actually all of that shaped the business in the most positive way possible. So, when we see that and we hear that, we just say, yes, that is absolutely the power of design, and just extraordinary. And, I had one client actually, who's actually a repeat client who we're working with currently. And they had said to us, there's just something about this space and how it feels. We could never put our finger on it, but actually this just captures who we are in such a specific way that when we walk into the space, we all start behaving as one seamless group. And I just thought that's one of the nicest compliments that we've ever been given around what design actually means and what it actually brings. And I love that. It just put it so succinctly in a way that, I would never have imagined hearing that back from a client.
Oh, that's really, really nice. And again, I love the way that you've described the fact that, space just has that impact and a positive impact. You've had that feedback and it's been fantastic. So yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a final question, and what's the most exciting part about working on an office interiors project?
What's the most exciting part? Well, I think what's for us really interesting is that you really need to create an environment where you understand your client. So the process actually that we go through, which is really a rigorous process of first understanding the client, their vision, how they work, how they function, and where the gaps are, the difference, almost like a gap analysis to understand, what is the balance between the art and the science. And I think, that's one of the most extraordinary opportunities that we are given. And it's actually very humbling, because you get to a point where you really need to actually understand every aspect of how that business functions. And there's a lot of trust and there's a lot of collaboration, and you really get to know these people where you actually feel like you've become part of their family environment, and just, understanding how they function. And I love that part. I absolutely love the part of delving into how they work, how they function. Every part is so exciting. It's like one continuous journey. So I can't say, this is the part that I absolutely love more than the other, because I think each element is so critical to make one successful story. So, when you create and understand what the client's requirements are, and you go into that concept design, you have that thrill of a whole team coming together and doing these pin-ups and, you know, what if we were to do this, and just understanding their language, to then presenting these to the client where you can see their faces light up with this excitement of, wow, this is going to be what our space is like. And that part is super cool. And then when you go into detailing the design, you know, you go into working with amazing people within your team, people who really focus on, you know, putting a package of drawings together, which actually are just beautiful, and they're almost artworks in themselves. I had a client actually say yesterday, you know, my favorite part of a project is actually receiving the drawing packages from designers, because that's when you really, you really see it. And then you're on site and, you know, you're building something. So I love the fact that actually something created as an idea, and it's almost like that, you know, where people say, you know, you can manifest and you create your own reality. That is the coolest thing about our job, because actually it starts with just a simple piece of paper, blank canvas. So there's no one aspect. I think it's just it's
the
all
whole
one
project.
extraordinary journey.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
the journey in the whole project and seeing it all come to light.
Yeah. And I mean, we're fortunate to have, you know, really fantastic clients who actually really value what we do. And I think, you know, when you have that and you have a team of, because it's never, you know, a single individual, it's always a team. It's always, you know, amazing clients and consultants who, you know, work together with you. And then people like you who feature it and bring it to life ultimately. You know, I think those are the kinds of things that, you know, that really make it an extraordinary process and share it.
Yeah, well, we're all in this together, and, you know, we're all part of the same world, I suppose. So we've all got to help each other and do what we can.
Agree.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Diane. It was such a pleasure to get to know you a little bit better, how you chose your career, and about your projects that you do here in the Middle East. So thank you, and take care of yourself. And I hope to come and see your office soon.
Yes, we look forward to welcoming you there for a real cup of coffee, not a virtual one.
Yes, a real one. I can't wait for the day.
Thank you so much. It was fun chatting with you.
You too. Take care. Bye.